So when the delegates were in St. Hyacinthe last month and we were presented the tentative agreement, of course we argued over I guess 2 days, solid 2 days. And of course this is a democratic process. We, MUHC, we made the difficult decision to put in our dissidence. And what a dissidence means is that we cannot rally or recommend to our members the acceptance of this tentative agreement. It's been a rough 16 months. You're right. We were out on the picket lines in the dead of winter, and we find it severely inadequate.
The voice of Jennie Rhee right there, head of the MUHC Nurses Union, joined us last week on the program to say that the FIC, the Nurses Union, should reject the government's deal. Well, lo and behold, it did go to the vote, and nurses rejected the agreement in principle with the government. The vote took place on Saturday. 61% of members voted against the deal. With that in mind, we said, let's speak to Jennie and see how she feels about winning her argument on this one. Jennie Rhee is on the line. Hi, Jennie. Welcome back to the show.
Good morning, Mr. Makos. Thank you for inviting me back.
Yeah, listen, I said on the show last week, you're a firecracker. Come back on, and then of course the news comes out. You get your way. What was your reaction, by the way, when the vote tallies came in? What was your reaction?
Well, I think initially I was relieved because should this have passed, it would have been very difficult for our members to manage and to navigate the next few months a new collective agreement. After that initial relief, now we understand the hard work is still facing us in terms of getting a new collective agreement together, a new entente de principe. So, it's a mixed bag, but one thing that I can tell you with 100% certainty is that we are so proud of our MUHC staff. 88% pretty much voted, and we've never seen numbers that high. And out of that, 89% of our members voted against and 11% voted for.
Well, 9-1 basically right there certainly sends the message. But there is that old adage, and you kind of sort of reference it, be careful what you wish for, right? So, and now you've got a whole other slew of problems like trying to get an eventual deal negotiated. Can you tell me, how do you think that plays out from here? Because now you've got to, go back to the government and get back to the bargaining table.
Absolutely. So we are planning on probably heading as a delegation to a Fed board very soon as it can be organized. And we'll have these, tough discussions on what it's going to take for our members to be satisfied and for our members to accept a next tentative agreement. For us, the number one sticking point, like I said last week, was opening up on mobility, which we had said for 16 months was a non-negotiable. Now, the government has come back to us, Sonia Lebel, saying we need encore les souplesses, okay? We need the unions to be flexible on mobility. But I've always said, things that are non-negotiable for us, that are very distressing for us as professionals, the government needs to find a different solution. And we have on social media, so many people are coming forward with different solutions. There are possible ways to handling this without forcing somebody to go to another center of activity that they really don't want to go to.
And having said all that, when it comes to negotiations, especially for public sector jobs, you have to rely on public sentiment a lot of the time and obviously bargaining position here. Is there any worry right now that, the rest of the public sector is seemingly settled, that perhaps you could risk the goodwill from the public if the FIC union alone stands there saying no deal, right? So do you have any worries about how the public will side if this starts to persist over months and months?
I am always conscious of public opinion, yes. However, I think throughout the pandemic, our devotion to the public couldn't have been more obvious. Okay, we worked through a pandemic, even putting our own lives at risk, lives of our family members as well, because some of us got sick and brought it back home to our families. Let's not forget that. But in terms of public opinion and in terms of the Common Front having paved certain things the way, okay, so for them, they opened up this discussion. We recognize that. But for us, the government, you have to understand, it's very unlikely for the Common Front to be moved around like they want to move us around. And we said there are solutions that the government can put into place that will please both parties. And that's what a negotiation is. You have to find a common ground that will be acceptable to both. And one of those proposals is on a voluntary basis, offer, let's say, like a national or a float team for the island of Montreal, where people know that they're going to be going from one site to another, where the needs are the greatest, but you offer some kind of incentive. Those are things that the government could put into place and that we could possibly digest at a future date.
We're with Jennie Rhee, head of the MUHC Nurses Union. So, Jennie, do you feel that getting to an agreement that will get the approval of the members, that you're actually pretty close there, that there's a decent amount of goodwill at the table? You mentioned Sonia Lebel. Let's bring in Health Minister Christian Dubé into the conversation. Do you think that there is sufficient goodwill on both sides that this is really going to come down to a matter of a couple more sessions at the table and you'll get to where you want to be?
We can only hope. We can only hope, because I think our common goal, okay, and this is, it's so true, it couldn't be more true today. Our common goal is to fix this réseau de la santé, this public system, so that the employees are working in a safe environment where they have some job satisfaction, they can deliver the quality of care that the public deserves. And I hope this government will consult us, the people on the ground, more in the sense of what it is that is in our demands that can be negotiated, that we can accept. And clearly our public, our sector has spoken. When you have that high a number, saying at 61% to reject this tentative agreement, and we saw rejection across the province, it wasn't just us in Montreal, that, has to be taken into consideration. The government has to take us seriously. It's in the public interest. But we couldn't be more devoted, I can assure you, Mr. Mackles.
And with that devotion, could we end up in a spot where you're back to the picket line? Could there be further strikes ahead?
Nothing is off the table. We still have the mandate. Don't forget, 96% of our members voted to have give us a strike mandate. Nothing is off the table right now. We hope that it doesn't reach that point. Of course, we want to get back to work. We want to sign a collective agreement. We're very motivated to sign something, but we cannot accept what was put in the last one. It's very clear. So something has to be rewritten. We need an encadrement, if I could say it that way. The thing about the portage and the 35 kilometers or 25 kilometers and the 1 month, 30 days notice, it wasn't defined enough for us. So by that, I mean, well, what's the limit? How many times can they move you? It's those details, that the unknown, that is making us a little bit, nervous and questioning this tentative agreement. We want things to be a little bit more clear, so that we can talk to our members and see if they would accept any kind of opening. So far at the MUHC, it's clear. Our people said no. And when I said to you last week that they were preparing their NCLEX, they were preparing their, CVs for other provinces, and they were even preparing their letters of resignation, I was not kidding. I was not exaggerating. It's that serious right now. So the future of the réseau rests in all our collective hands. But the government needs to come back to the table and find something that we can live with.
Jennie, we have to leave it there. Always a pleasure talking to you, and thanks for keeping us up to date in your ongoing negotiations. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mackles.
Jennie Rhee right there, head of the MUHC Nurses Union.